How did the game really turn into the biggest punchline in rap history?
I wanted to talk about this. The Game has apparently lost his house as a result of his sexual assault case.
There was a time when he was racing toward rap royalty with no breaks and no doubts. He was personally picked by Dr. Dre to carry the torch for a new West Coast comeback, and he was seen as the big homie leading LA's next wave of rap stars. Fast forward to today, and the Game is now one of the most clowned rappers in the entire industry. After dominating the Billboard charts for years, his career flipped into a full warning sign of what not to do if you want your legacy respected long term. That fall off didn't happen overnight, and every move made it worse. That's why we're breaking down his entire journey, from his explosive rise to fame to his most embarrassing crash outs. How did a near-death experience push him into rapping? How did his fallout with 50 Cent explode into real tension in the streets of New York? And how did he go from praising Kendrick Lamar to turning his back on him completely? We're digging into his strange behavior, from the infamous Red Rolls White Ceiling freestyles to non-stop beef hopping that slowly torched his reputation.
Told y'all one of my only things that I wanted to do in this game was get back to Compton. And here we are.
And finally, we're exposing how his desperate shots at Eminem became the final nail in the coffin for his career. The Game was born and raised in Compton, and the city's deep gang culture shaped a huge part of his early life. Even though he grew up in a Crip-heavy area, he ended up joining a blood set known as the Cedar Block Pirates. Those early street ties pulled him into dangerous situations fast, and that lifestyle almost ended everything before it even started. In October 2001, when he was just 21 years old, the Game was shot multiple times during a home invasion. He woke up from a 3-day coma staring death in the face, and that moment flipped a switch in his head. From there, he locked in, studied classic rap albums non-stop, and made a promise to completely change his path and take music seriously. One of his early mixtapes eventually landed in the hands of Dr. Dre, the godfather of LA rap himself. Dre immediately saw raw potential, real street credibility, and authenticity that couldn't be faked. At the time, the West Coast was desperate for new energy, and Dre knew the city needed a fresh face badly. Back in the 90s, LA gangsta rap ruled hip-hop with legends like Snoop Dogg, Tupac Shakur, and Ice Cube running the culture. But by the early 2000s, the scene felt empty, and Dre believed he had finally found the missing piece. Dre signed The Game to Aftermath Entertainment in 2003. But behind the scenes, Jimmy Iovine had a bigger play in motion. The master plan was simple but risky. Pair The Game with 50 Cent, the industry's hottest breakout star, and plug him directly into G-Unit to launch him straight to the top. Jimmy Iovine believed pairing The Game with 50 Cent would instantly supercharge his star power and money potential. On paper, the plan looked genius, especially since G-Unit already felt unstoppable. The group kicked off as a super team with 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, and Tony Yayo, all repping Southside Jamaica, Queens with serious momentum.
50 got jealous and kicked me out of G-Unit, and he thought that he could do what he did to Ja Rule to me. But I'm the people's champ, man. Rap's MVP. You can't get rid of me, man.
Adding The Game gave G-Unit a West Coast stamp, while bringing in Young Buck from Nashville locked down the South. Suddenly, the crew had presence in every major hip-hop stronghold across America, East, West, and South, all covered. People started calling this the upgraded G-Unit, the new hip-hop Beatles, almost like a rap Avengers lineup if we're keeping it real. But behind the scenes, both Jimmy and Dr. Dre quickly learned you can't just stitch together a rap group and expect magic every time. Still, the momentum was real. The Game's debut album, The Documentary, dropped in January 2005 and hit like an earthquake. The album debuted at #1, sold over 500,000 copies in its first week, and went 5 times platinum. With more than 5 million records sold, it became the blueprint for the West Coast comeback and stamped The Game as a real force. But make no mistake, 50 Cent played a massive role, with writing credits all over the album and key features pushing it to legendary status.
The first 3 records he put out, I'm on them. West Side Story, How We Do, Hate It or Love It, those just 3 singles to date. So every record that he's selling is based on me being on this record with him.
The biggest singles, Hate It or Love It and How We Do, were unavoidable smash hits and even earned Grammy nominations. Those records flooded radio nonstop, helped by 50 Cent already being a certified superstar. Everything looked perfect on the surface, but behind the scenes, the pressure was building fast.
We had on Converse and shit. So it was niggas slipping and sliding. I remember trash trucks, like we was hiding behind trash trucks and shooting back, and it was just a whole shootout outside of Hot 97 that got us banned and changed the way that Hot 97 does interviews, I think, to this day.
Just weeks after the documentary dropped, the relationship between The Game and 50 Cent blew up in a real way. On February 28th, 2005, 50 pulled up to Hot 97 in Manhattan and went public. During the interview, he claimed he wrote most of the album and accused Game of disloyalty, then announced he was kicked out of G-Unit live on air. The wild part is Game was also in New York, tuned in, hearing himself get embarrassed in real time. Heated and feeling disrespected, he decided to pull up to Hot 97 with his crew while the interview was still happening. Tensions exploded when Game arrived with an entourage and ran into 50's security, turning the situation chaotic in seconds.
Ask 50, it get lonely on top. You can hate me or love me, but now the cops the only homies he got. When it's beef, we eat me. We ain't baloney, we pop. Sell records, but a G, not.
What followed was a violent confrontation outside the station that made national headlines. Thankfully, no innocent bystanders were harmed, but Game's close friend Kevin Reed was injured. That moment officially ended Game's ties with G-Unit forever. After the dust settled, Game fired back, saying 50 felt threatened by the runaway success of the documentary and feared Game was about to outgrow him completely. Once 50 Cent switched from ally to full-on enemy, everyone started questioning how the Game could possibly survive the fallout. Most insiders believe the documentary only exploded because of 50's star power, and many expected Game to fold under the pressure. Instead, he did the exact opposite and leaned all the way into the chaos. Rather than backing down, Game went on a straight warpath. He launched a scorched earth campaign aimed directly at G-Unit, pushing the aggressive G-Unit movement and dropping the infamous 15-minute diss track, 300 Bars and Running. That record shook the industry and made it clear he wasn't scared of anyone.
When I put out the track listing, I was gonna literally count the name drops myself and put a disclaimer under. Like, just so you know, there are 377 name drops on this album.
The campaign caused so much noise that Game later claimed Jimmy Iovine paid him $2 million just to stop pushing the movement. Whether exaggerated or not, the damage was real, and G-Unit's image took heavy hits during that stretch. Even fully solo, Game stayed active in both the streets and the charts.
On every other song.
You know, you never know what's going on with. Like, he's one of the artists that showed me you don't actually have to have consistency. Because he'll go one way and then completely go the other way, like he's bipolar or something.
His next 3 albums, The Doctor's Advocate, LAX, and the Red Album, all debuted at #1, proving he could still compete at the highest level. While his sales never touched the monster numbers of the documentary, Game cemented his reputation as one of the few rappers who could go head-to-head with 50 Cent and live to tell the story. Over time, the Game started getting more attention for his antics than his actual music, and that shift hurt his image badly.
Red Rose, White Ceiling.
Red Rose, White Ceiling. Red Rose, White Ceiling.
Let's check it. Look, Red Rose, White Ceiling.
One of the biggest complaints was his non-stop habit of name-dropping. Game became known for stuffing his verses with shout-outs to other rappers like 50 Cent, Jay-Z, Nas, Dr. Dre, and J. Cole. Basically everyone in sight. Game always claimed it was about paying homage, but critics weren't buying it.
Who's the best rapper on the West Coast today?
Game.
To a lot of listeners, it felt like clout chasing disguised as respect, and people started rolling their eyes instead of rewinding his bars. That reputation stuck, and it only got louder over time. Then there's Game's endless history of beefing. He became notorious for dissing rappers so often that even his own fans struggled to keep up with his logic. Some fans joked that his stance changed every other song, dissing someone, denying it, then dissing them again like nothing happened. Over the years, he's taken shots at everyone from Joe Budden and Meek Mill to Lil Durk, Rick Ross, Chris Brown, Young Thug, Frank Ocean, and Diddy. Most people still agree Game can rap for real.
It's 2004 and I'm hearing the people roar. For the name of the game, they line in front of the store.
But his nonstop beef addiction made him look unstable and desperate. And then came the infamous freestyles. For years, his radio appearances kept starting the same way. Red Rose, White Ceiling, over and over. When those clips got compiled and went viral, Game instantly turned into a meme and the damage was done.
I would have all of your fans if I didn't go poppin'. I stayed on some conscious shit.
This right here is why so many fans slowly started turning on the Game, even though he still had hits, street respect, and a strong run commercially. Instead of evolving, Game felt stuck in a loop, the same forced name drops, non-stop disses, and rinse and repeat freestyles that made his image feel corny over time. He didn't lose talent, but he definitely started tanking his own reputation. What really cut deep, though, was how Game burned bridges with rappers from his own city. After a long drought, he once carried the flag for LA and became the face younger artists looked up to. A whole new generation saw him as proof that the West Coast was back, and that made his later moves hit even harder.
Why niggas do the homie like that, man? At his own motherfucking stop. In his own fucking hood, man. Just try to do good for niggas, man. It's crazy, man.
The two biggest names tied to this fallout are Kendrick Lamar and the late Nipsey Hustle. For years, Kendrick and Game were tight, sharing real street connections and mutual respect. Game even brought a young Kendrick into the spotlight early, giving him major exposure on tracks like The City back in August 2011. Game didn't stop there either. He linked Kendrick with West Coast legends like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, symbolically passing him the torch as the next leader of LA hip-hop. Kendrick later showed love back, dedicating a full verse to Game on Black Boy Fly, openly crediting him for inspiring his grind and hustle. But by 2015, things between the Game and Kendrick Lamar got way more complicated, and fans peeped it instantly. That's when Game teamed up with Drake on the song 100, right as the behind-the-scenes tension between Drake and Kendrick was hitting a boiling point. The issue wasn't the collaboration itself, it was how Game moved afterward. On that record, Game basically let Drake slide in shots aimed at Kendrick.
Spoke about Game, and was there anybody that you felt like you left on stage, or you was good with it?
No, I was good. It was perfect.
And that rubbed people the wrong way fast. To make it worse, Game brought Drake straight into Compton to shoot the video, which looked like giving Drake a green light to disrespect Kendrick in his own city. After years of showing Kendrick love, that move felt like a clear violation to a lot of fans. From that moment on, the relationship never really recovered, and people started calling Game's move a low-key backstab. Fans also started looking at Game sideways after the death of Nipsey Hustle. Game and Nip worked together for years, despite claiming rival sets, with Nip repping the Rollin' 60s and both men publicly stressing mutual respect.
The real reason I wasn't on the Super Bowl is because I'm not a safe artist. You don't know what Game gonna do when you get up there. We on the West Coast are the only because that have this crab in the barrel mentality where we wanna keep down or don't do things based on what somebody else might think it looks like. I was hurt by that.
When Nipsey was killed in 2019, Game was visibly emotional. He posted a raw, real-time breakdown while driving around LA, showing just how shaken he was by the loss. And that moment had fans deeply conflicted about where he truly stood. Not long after that, the Game found himself facing serious backlash, with fans accusing him of trying to co-opt Nipsey Hussle's legacy for personal gain.
23 years still ain't penetrating the culture. You are not top 5 in mine, big or pot eyes. No Andre, no Nas, stop telling white lies.
Game announced the launch of a new label called Prolific Records, claiming it was a tribute to one of Nipsey's most famous catchphrases, But fans weren't convinced, and the timing instantly raised eyebrows. Things got messier when listeners noticed Game starting to mirror Nipsey's flow and cadence on certain records. Game insisted it was respect and homage, but critics questioned whether he was leaning into public grief to stay relevant. Instead of honoring Nipsey's legacy cleanly, many felt the move only made things worse. Adding fuel to the fire was Game's manager, Wack 100, who had already built a reputation as one of Nipsey's loudest critics. Just months after Nipsey passed, Wack made controversial comments that shocked fans, saying, "The man died with 1 million followers, no radio hits, no platinum hits, no world tours. After he died, he went platinum, sold records, followers went up 9-10 million.
Don't put my name in it unless you hear me say it. And I ain't got, and anybody that know me know, I ain't got no problem saying how I feel about no nigga. If you want to say, oh, Game pick this side and pick that side, Game pick Game side."
Those words didn't sit right with the city at all. Wack didn't stop there either. He continued making out-of-pocket remarks in interview after interview, even going as far as defending Eric Holder and claiming he possessed unreleased Nipsey material. Throughout all of this, Game stayed silent, never publicly checking his own manager. To many fans, that silence spoke louder than any song. It started feeling like Game was chasing attention instead of standing up for his city, and that perception did serious damage to whatever respect he had left. What really locked in the Game's downfall was his Super Bowl crash out in 2022, and this moment changed how fans viewed him forever. Dr. Dre headlined the Super Bowl halftime show in LA and brought out a full all-star lineup. The stage was stacked with Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar, 50 Cent, Mary J. Blige, and Anderson .Paak. But fans immediately noticed one name missing from that LA victory lap, and that was The Game. Instead of letting it go, Game spiraled, crashing out interview after interview, making it clear he felt disrespected. It wasn't just about not performing. It hurt worse seeing his biggest rival, 50 Cent, get the call instead of him. For a show celebrating LA hip-hop being passed over for non-LA, artists like 50 and Eminem cut Game deep and he couldn't hide it. He even turned on his longtime mentor, publicly airing out Dr. Dre for not backing him, which shocked a lot of people who once rooted for him. From there, Game doubled down and tried to spark beef with Dre's other protege, Eminem. He dropped an unhinged 10.5-minute diss track called Black Slim Shady, clearly fishing for a response. Instead of starting a war, the reaction was silence. Fans dragged the record as a desperate grab for attention, not a real diss, and Eminem ignored it completely. That silence spoke volumes and marked the final chapter of Game's fall from grace. That moment was a brutal wake-up call showing just how far the Game had fallen after years of #1 albums and hit records. Early in his career, Game was known as someone always ready for smoke, just like Eminem usually is. But when Eminem completely ignored him, it didn't feel strategic. It felt like pure disrespect. Like Game wasn't even worth a response anymore. Then came Game's stance during the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, and it only made things worse. Years earlier, Game played a role in letting Drake take shots at Kendrick on his own record. But when Kendrick fired back and unified the city, Game suddenly chose to stay neutral, and the entire industry noticed. That silence got louder when Kendrick hosted his historic Juneteenth pop-out in LA. While Kendrick used that stage to bring rival sets together and make a statement bigger than music, Game wasn't anywhere near the building. For a lot of people, that was the final sign that Kendrick and much of LA had moved on without him. Game once held the torch for the entire West Coast in his hands, but after years of shady moves and corny antics, he became a pariah in his own city. And if we're being honest, it might already be too late for a comeback. If you rock with real hip-hop breakdowns, make sure you subscribe to Dripzine, share this video, drop a comment, hit like, and click hype on this video. It's free. Thank you for watching.